And welcome back to the Road to Retirement. My name is Chris Anselmo. Here are my co-host Tony Shore. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me on the show. I've had a great week. I'm excited about today. I know you have a lot to talk about. There's always a lot going on. I mean, the markets are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've been meaning to give you a call. I'm kind of
And the Tribe's in the playoffs.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, they are.
So,
Yeah, they are.
I don't, not the
Cleveland
Tribe, whatever. The Guardians.
Guardians, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Youngest team in baseball. Made it won their division.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a couple games. There's it's really unique this year. It's the wild card is a 3-game playoff, and all 3 games are at home. So it's
Isn't that crazy?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. So
Yeah. I like Cleveland, although they really beat us. The Twins kinda
yeah,
shoved you in there.
thank you. Yeah, I know because right around I think beginning of September or late August, we were only like 1.5 games up, and by the end of September, we were 10 or so. We went 21-4 in September.
Yeah. And
That
most of those wins were against my team, the Twins. So,
in Kansas City, so it
oh,
was good.
yeah.
So yeah, playoff start tomorrow, and really upset with the Cleveland Guardians management, whatever. So my brother and I share, fortunate enough to share 4 front row seats
Oh,
at third base
wow.
there, right? So we've had them for almost 10 years.
Wow.
Somehow they sold one of the seats to somebody else.
What?
So my brother writes this letter like, who in their right mind would think someone who's paid for every game for 10 years would not want their playoff seats?
Yeah.
Especially if they're in the front row. I can see if they're 2 rows from the
Yeah. Yeah.
clouds, it's different,
Yeah.
right? So somehow we only got 3 of our 4 seats, which is kind of really upsetting. But anyhow,
That is
so
very
if the
well,
Indians are listening or the whatever, they're
that's very strange, though. That's not right. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
something
we probably spend 25,000 a year at least on these tickets.
yeah.
And playoffs are extra, and the All-Star game was extra, and all that it just
I smell a lawsuit.
yeah, well, they have more money than we do. So
True.
for those who's listening about lawsuits, oftentimes the more money wins. So
Yeah, gee,
whether or
really?
not you have a good cause.
Yeah, that's the problem. So, Chris, finances and problems go hand in hand, and that's why we do this show is
We
to
do.
talk about possible solutions. And I need to give you a call later
Okay.
to talk about the estate planning nightmare that I'm experiencing
okay.
with my grandpa Bob and his farm. Oh, because he left it to my dad and but my mom is in long-term care. So that's we've talked about that on the show before. And yeah, it's just it's crazy. So um
Good segue, because today I wanted to talk about an elder care planning issue,
there you
um,
go.
and w- most people have heard of living trusts and avoiding probate and things like
Sure.
that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the trust that we use to help plan for nursing home care is significantly different. It's not your vanilla, everyday, run of the mill trust that you could find online. It's a highly specialized document,
Sure.
and you're going to be the first to see this, but I got a little PowerPoint presentation. So it's only one
PowerPoint.
slide.
Uh-oh.
So I don't know if I'll see you while we're doing this, but
Sure.
so
Only one slide though. That's good. Our
yeah,
listeners don't need to panic.
yeah. So the concept is I look at it as right pocket, left pocket. Right now, all your assets are in the left pocket. And this trust we call the right pocket. So we have to
Okay.
get assets into this trust to try and protect them, because it's silly that we talked about this before, that the government's spending money on Mars, but they won't help people pay for nursing homes. And the facetious part is the person who. So I have someone going into a nursing home that is 85 years old, right? Medicare, their traditional health insurance will only pay up to 100 days if they're
Yeah.
getting better,
If that, and
right?
only under certain
Right.
circumstances.
So the person who's 15 and got his first paycheck in high school gets 100 days. The guy who's 85, that's literally been paying into the system for 70 years
Yep.
gets 100 days.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem fair. So, so I, with the help of Aaron and our office, we developed this one little PowerPoint slide. So I'm going to try to go to it, and um, hopefully this will work.
Oh
So
yeah.
so I'm going to say present screen
Yep.
and window
Yep.
share.
There it is.
Let me go to if I hit F5, it turns on the PowerPoint. So,
Yep. There you
so
go.
you probably can't see me, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And,
No, I can see each
oh,
other.
okay.
Yeah.
I can't see you guys. All I see is PowerPoint. So let me go through this. So our couple is, we always use Herman and Lily Munster for those of you who remember the Munster show.
I love it.
Actually, the people who are of age will remember it, but all you youngsters, go out and watch it. So it's a good show. So left pocket. So these are the assets they currently own, and they're not in the trust. So and this is typical, average Midwest family. So say a house is $300,000.
Yep.
Bank accounts maybe $100,000, and an IRA of $600,000. So we did this so it was an even $1 million.
Yep. Perfect.
And believe it or not, a lot of people fall in this category. They don't think they have a lot of money, but a lot of it's in their house. So what happens is, right now, say your grandfather wants to apply for, or your grandmother, I guess, wants to apply for Medicaid. Medicaid comes in and says, look, the person who's going in the nursing home can keep about $2,000, a house, a car, and a funeral plan. Okay. The person who's not in the house, so we call those the community, not going in, the community spouse, person who's living in the community, can keep half the assets up to about $130,000, house, car, and funeral plan. So one of the issues we have, if we can qualify for them for this, let's say they meet these standards and they said, okay, you can have Medicare, Medicaid. The issue is Medicaid, at least here in Ohio and probably most of the states, have something called estate recovery. So if you have a house and let's say that, your grandfather goes in and Medicaid starts paying, they keep a running tally of how much money they've spent on his behalf.
Yep.
And then when grandma either dies or sells the house or moves out, transfers the house, even if it goes to the kids, there's going to be a lien placed on that house for the amount of money they spent on grandpa. So they're trying to recoup their money. Okay. So the concept is we have to get assets into what we call our heritage trust. It's also known as the Medicaid Asset Protection Trust if you're out there looking on the internet. So the scary part is it has to be irrevocable, which means it scares people, but irrevocable necessarily doesn't mean you can't ever make changes to it. What it means is nobody can make you undo this, revoke it, and put it back in your left pocket.
Okay. So I have a quick question before you move on. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
But I have a question. But going back before we move on to the Heritage Trust, in the scenario you laid out, the house, if she sells it or passes away and the house is sold, they can go after that money or place a lien.
Correct.
What if the house, she sells the house to move into another house?
That's fine.
So
Right.
if she sells the house for 300,000 and buys another house for 300,000, they can't go after. They won't go after
Correct.
that
Right.
she
Because
still needs a place to live.
Right, because the house is considered an exempt asset. So you're
Okay.
changing exempt asset for exempt
I was just
asset.
curious, but now you're talking about, now to move on, just so our listeners follow and I follow, you're talking about moving assets into a heritage trust.
Right. Now the heritage trust is our name for it. Other law firms.
An irrevocable trust is what you're talking
now,
about.
this is different than an irrevocable trust you may have heard for life insurance purposes or estate planning purposes. This is designed to protect the assets from Medicaid's spend down.
Okay.
So here we go. So we're going to move the house over. we're going to move half the bank account over, and we're going to move half the IRA over. Now,
Okay.
look, I didn't go into the whole tax ramifications. You're going to have to pay some tax on the IRA to move it over, but this is just before taxes. Okay. So what we've done then is, look, we need to leave enough money in the left pocket so grandma and grandpa could live, right? So we can't bleed them so dry. So what's going on in this other trust is every trust has something called a grantor or settlor or something called a trustor. So here it's Lily and Herman Munster. Okay. So they're setting up the trust. Now the other things in trust is you have trustees, which are the managers of the trust. So we can make Lily and Herman Munster the trustees, and the backup would be grandpa. Or if Lily and Herman are not well enough, or maybe they're getting up there in age and they don't want, I guess we wouldn't use grandpa then, but we can make somebody else the trustee other than them. Okay. So trustees are basically the managers. Now, every trust has beneficiaries. So the beneficiaries of this trust are Eddie and Marilyn. Okay. So the money on paper, once they transfer it, is no longer for the benefit of Lily and Herman. So Tony, if you set up a trust with your own money and you made me the trustee, but it was for your kids, right? The only thing I can spend money on is your kids. I can't, just because I'm the trustee, I don't get to take any of the money for myself.
Right. The trustee doesn't get the money, the
Right.
beneficiary, it's all for a beneficiary.
So now that Lily and Herman are not beneficiaries, they, on paper, they've made this gift to Eddie and Maryland Munster, but it's in trust for them. Okay. So what happens?
How does that really quick before you go on to the rest, how does that protect it from Medicaid and the county social and the state coming after that money to help pay for grandpa's care?
Okay. So we're going to get that in a second. But let me give you the rights that
Okay.
Lily and Herman, we can retain certain rights for them.
Okay.
But if we retain too many rights for them, then Medicaid will say, well, look, if you could go in this trust and take it out willy-nilly, we're just going to consider it's in your left pocket. So there's restrictions on Lily and Herman on how much money they can take out. Now, again, they can only take out money for the beneficiaries. So if Lily and Herman want a new car, they can't take money out of the trust to buy their new car because they gave the money away to Eddie and Marilyn.
Right.
On paper. Okay. So we're allowed to give them access. They can live in the house rent free. Usually we have them pay for the expenses, the upkeep, and the taxes, because we want the money. We want to deplete the left side, this left pocket. So we don't want to take the maintenance expenses out of the Heritage Trust, because we want to use up the left pocket. So So they live in the house, they pay the taxes, they pay they pay the maintenance and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Now they, like you say, they can change ownership of the house. So let's say that Adam Gomez, remember Adam Gomez? Gomez Adams, I should say, from the Adams family, wants to buy the house. Okay. So they can sell them the house. Then $300,000 goes back into the Heritage Trust. A deed goes out, the house is removed. Now there's $300,000 in the Heritage Trust. They could buy another house if they want to. So maybe they want to sell the Ohio house and they want to move to Florida, something like that. So they can swap out houses, because it's just changing the asset in the trust. You're not actually taking any of the money out. Okay. Now the other thing we can do is we can give them the ability to change the trustee. So let's say, for instance, they didn't make themselves trustee, right? And they made Tony Shore trustee.
Sure.
Okay. If they don't like how Tony Shore is handling the trust, they have the ability to change the trustee. So this is kind of indirect control over the trustee, right? So it's not that they're the trustee. They could be, but if they're not the trustee because they're too old or incapable to, they have the right to change the trustee. The other trump card, and oftentimes what people do is they put their kids as trustee and their kids as beneficiary, and that's fine. So let's say Eddie and Marilyn were the trustees. If the trustees are not doing what they want them to do, they can change the trustees
Sure.
and they can change the beneficiaries, but they can't make them themselves, right? So because if you make them themselves, then you're going to blow this, right?
Right.
So this happened. So for instance, I don't know, about 6 months ago or so, my mom needed money, and she had, I don't know, roof repairs, whatever, and she needed like $20,000. So I gave her $20,000 out of my own pocket. And since I'm one of the beneficiaries, I could, if I want, I don't think I did it yet, but I could take $20,000 out of this trust because I'm one of the beneficiaries. My mom's not a beneficiary, so this trust can't pay. So this trust can't pay Lily and Herman. It could only pay beneficiaries. So because it's set up this way, on paper, it's as if she made a gift on they made a gift on day one to Eddie and Marilyn, but it's just in trust for them. Okay. So because it's irrevocable and they can't make significant amount of changes, the law firm usually sits on the trust as something called a trust protector. And this is kind of their back door to being able to make changes if they need to. So, and usually it's stuff like the law might change. We need to make a change. A beneficiary may die. Maybe you get a new beneficiary. Maybe you have some grandchildren you want to add to it. So that it's something, a way that we can change the trust for the trustors once it's, even though it's irrevocable, the law firm retains the right to do that. So this is how we get money into the right pocket. And now this trust has a 60-month or 5-year look back period. So what this look back period
Yeah,
means?
that was my question is what's the timing on setting up this trust to keep this money that you put in it out of the hands of the state?
Yeah. So let's say, for instance, we did this today.
Mhm.
Okay. 5 years from now, if we went into the nursing home and then are asking the government to pay, they have the right to go look back to see if Lily and Herman gave any money away in the last 5 years and didn't get like if you buy something and you spend money, you bought a car and you know, that's okay because you got something for it. But if you just gave money away and didn't get anything back, then they're considering that improper transfer. Let's say they gave $100,000 away,
Mhm.
and the state comes in and say, look, you know, if it's $10,000 a month, if you didn't give $100,000 away, you could have paid for 10 months of care. So we're not paying for the next 10 months. Okay. So this trust is designed to get past that 60-month period. So once it gets past the 60-month period, then that right pocket is blind to Medicaid. They're not allowed to look at it. So
But up until that point, they
up
can.
up until that point, the strategy would be we don't ask the government to pay until we get beyond the 60 months. Maybe we have to privately pay. Maybe
Mhm.
they have to. There's some other strategies
Sure.
we call it crisis planning that we may have to do. It may not be as great as saving all this money, but there's still stuff we can do if you're short of the 60 months. But once they get beyond 60 months, they're not. The government's not allowed to look at these transfers. So when we started this years and years ago, the look back period was 24 months. Then it went
Mhm.
to 30. Then it went to 36 months. Now it's 70. Now it's 60 months, and there's talk about making it 72 months.
Yeah.
So we don't want to wait too long to set up these trusts. And the reason we go over this with clients is, you know, everything you hear on the internet about trust, avoiding probate, less costly than going through that, it's private and all. Look, that's all true. But the typical living trust doesn't do anything to protect the assets because you have too much control over it. You can take money in and out whenever you want. So the way the government looks at, look, if you
So
could
there's
take,
no time period limit. It's not like when Herman and Lily put the money in this heritage trust, the beneficiaries can withdraw at any time. There's
they
not.
can.
there's not like it's not like a
Like,
24-month, it's not
no.
like an annuity or a
So
CD where
so
it's
it
locked
yeah,
in.
so normally it reads, that the trustee can spend money for and on behalf of the beneficiaries, and then when Lily and Herman both pass away, then they'll get the rest of it,
Mhm.
right? So, but your typical living trust, the way it's drafted, uh, Lily and Herman would have too many rights to that money, so the government says, "Well, it's still in your left pocket," right? So, you just can't just grab one of these trusts off the shelf and think it's going to work. So, when we're looking at doing this, and a lot of people have asked to do living trusts, I'm like, well, we can do it and you could spend the money, but it's not going to protect any assets. So, and I think there's a misconception out there that if I just put money in a trust, I can protect the assets from this Medicaid spend down, but it has to be this specialized trust. It's not just your everyday vanilla trust that you're going to find in a form book. So,
Yeah, it has to be a specialized trust, and you have to fulfill the look
yeah,
back
yeah.
period.
So most, I wouldn't say most, but most general practitioners as attorneys don't know how to do these. Just like I don't know how to do a divorce case, right? So I don't do that. So
Yeah.
so make sure if you're going to do this type of trust, work with someone who concentrates in elder law. So elder law is that time period between living and dying. Estate planning is what happens when you're gone. Elder law is what happens from now until you're gone. So, and being that nursing homes are super expensive in our area, it's approaching $10,000 to $12,000 a month.
Yep.
And you should probably put a little thing. I tried to keep this all on one slide so it was easy for people to understand it. But
Yeah.
the other thing is,
I like the way you've laid it out. It really was
yeah,
it's easy to follow.
somehow I got to put in there that little 60-month thing. But this is a shocking statistic, and we talked about on other shows that 2 out of 3 people over the age of 70 will spend time in a facility.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 out of 3. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's almost 1 out of every 2, and I
yeah,
remember when I first started this doing financial radio shows and working with you and others, I think the stat has gone up
oh
significantly
yeah,
in the
because
last 20
yeah,
years. I mean, it used to be, 1 out of 5, I
well,
remember, not
well,
that long
yeah,
ago, and then it was 1 out of 3,
yeah.
and
What's
now it's
happening? People,
almost
yeah,
1
people
out
are
of 2.
living longer, and
Yeah,
people used to just people used to just drop dead, right? So
yeah,
now the people are living longer. As you live longer, look,
yeah.
you're going to mentally deteriorate. I mean, I mean,
Plus, the
rare circle,
Alzheimer's and
right?
dementia have really become more prevalent. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the numbers are crazy.
So I mean, you were fortunate with your grandfather. Like he was pretty sharp till the day he died at
Yeah.
101, was it? But most
He died
people,
of old age at
yeah.
101. His
So
body just gave out. His mind
right,
was still there.
but most people mentally decline as they
Yes.
get older. It's
Yeah.
just a fact of life. So this 2 out of 3. So what's happened is that the industry. I'm going to switch back so I can see what we're doing. Okay, so the industry, the long term care insurance industry, can't actually handle 2 out of 3, right? Like
No.
if you're an insurance company and you're Allstate and you say, look, I can insure 100,000 houses and 2 of them burn down. I'm not sure that's the right numbers, but we can handle
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
But when you say I'm going to insure 3 people and 2 of them are going to make claims, that's not working. So this was really rudimentary. But if you need help in this area, okay, Tony, I got to find our banners here. So call us at 216-485-1040 or visit us at anselmolaw.com. Again, 216 485-1040, and we'll it doesn't cost you anything for us to help you out here. So give us a call. But we're 25 minutes into this, Tony.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, great show.
probably is worth another show or two.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. This was really good information,
yeah,
but I think, Chris, the bottom line for our listeners and viewers out there and for people out there is you need to work with somebody who knows what they're doing and has done this type of thing before. A typical estate planning attorney or just your average attorney, again, they don't
yeah.
specialize in
Right.
elder care law. And
Yeah, no offense to them. It's just,
yeah,
it's, I don't want to say it's malpractice, but I mean, if the beneficiaries came to you and say, how is it possible that mom and dad spent $1 million on long-term care and you were their estate planning attorney and there were ways to protect the money and you didn't talk to them about that?
Yeah.
Well, so we actually have people, when we go over this presentation, people say no. We have them sign off that we showed them the presentation and they said no.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Because
that's
it's that,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to tell you, as somebody who's going through this right now with my family, and there are so many scenarios and things, and you really need somebody like yourself, Chris, on your side. So I want to encourage your viewers and listeners, go to anselmolaw.com and check it out. Make an appointment with Chris. Chris, I think this is so valuable, and people put it off, and I don't
No,
need that, or
never going to happen to them. They're the one out of
yeah,
the three.
my grandfather or my parents, they have their will, they have enough money. I'm not worried. I'll get it when they're gone, and it's not that simple. It
Yeah.
really isn't
And
anymore. And the number one factor is long-term
procrastination.
care
Yeah.
costs. It's long-term care is crippling people and ruining people who
Yeah.
used to inherit good chunks of money. Now that money is gone. Or if you inherit land or a farm, long-term care will eat that up.
Yeah. So don't procrastinate, because if you lose a year's $120,000. So if you don't get beyond that 5 years, you may be privately paying. So sooner the better. Most of the time we did planning is people in their late 70s, because people tend to go in the nursing homes in their 80s. And for all you women listeners out there, it's you.
Yeah.
Because you've been in a nursing home, right? It's eight women, one guy, right?
Yeah.
So
Because they
yeah.
outlive the men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just like your well, your
My grandpa.
Eh,
Yeah. He outlived his 2 wives. And that's the unusual part for
Yeah.
him. Usually it's the woman.
Yeah.
He was very unusual in that way. So.
Okay, we got to wrap this up. You want to take
Yep.
us out, Tony?
All right. Well, a great show today. Again, The Road to Retirement with our host, Chris Anselmo. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Go Tribe. Guardians.
Go Guardians.
See ya.